have the opportunity to see what this action plan looks like and to be part of the process, not to come in after the fact.
Tonight, advocates don't see the action they were hoping for with the National Inquiry's calls to justice for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Northwest Territories officials are out in the spotlight as residents brace for winter in substandard housing.
Because the people used to travel all over and trade medicines, have a medicine exchange.
And finding healing by bringing those with the knowledge together to share in something Indigenous nations have always done across Turtle Island.
Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward.
And I'm Melissa Ridgen. A community in the Yukon is making safety a big priority after 2 homicides rocked their sense of security.
The Selkirk First Nation is only months into their safety officer program, and it's already proving to be a success. APTN's Chris McIntyre has more.
Yeah, this is a Pelly Crossing safety officer. Can you slow it down there, buddy?
If you're visiting Pelly Crossing, there is a good chance that you'll see the Selkirk First Nation community safety officers patrolling the streets, slowing traffic down, or engaging with youth.
We're the voices and the messengers for the community.
The community safety officers are not the police, but are often the first to be called by the citizens. The CSOs don't have any policing authority, but are trained to assist the RCMP and de-escalate situations before the police need to be called. Team leader Darcy Marcotte has been called to many situations since the program started in February.
The incident that happened with the lady that went missing McCabe Creek there back at the end of May, she went missing for quite a while. And then one day we got a call that, there was a sighting of her. So we got that information, and on my way out of the community, we went to go check it out. I called the RCMP and let them know what we had seen and where we were heading. And we got out there, and we found that missing person.
8 months into the program, and the community has 5 officers working shifts on both weekdays and weekends. The program was started after the community had 2 homicides in a short period. Chief Sharon Nelson of the Selkirk First Nation knew something needed to be done.
One of the things that we could do is to start developing some safety protocols and safety patrols in the community, just to make sure that people are not putting themselves into dangerous situations.
Okay, take care.
Solely funded by the Selkirk First Nation, the Community Safety Officer Program is on a 1-year term unless more funding can be found.
Our hope is that this program will continue for several years. It'll depend on how much funding we have and whether we can get some partnerships with other governments and organizations.
Darcy and his team are happy to make their community safe and take pride in putting on the uniform. Darcy says it works because it's for the community, by the community.
At the end of the day, it's the people in the community. It's their community, and that's what we are. We're part of the people, right? We, unfortunately, you've got the justice professionals, the RCP coming in. They'll come in for 2 and 3 years, and then they got to leave. We're here every day, every month, every year. We're there to help. We're there, to be part of the community. It's our community, too. It's our families.
Chris McIntyre, APTN National News, Pelly Crossing.
A Canadian Human Rights Tribunal decision has ordered a Northern Ontario First Nation to pay $20,000 to a non-band member they kicked out in 2012. The tribunal found that Angela Kamalatissit was discriminated against based on family and marital status when the Sandy Lake Band Council banished her. She'd been living there for 10 years with her common-law partner, who is a band member. Tribunal records say she was forced to leave for allegedly creating hardship and social unrest in the community. The tribunal called the actions of the band outrageous and abhorrent. Sandy Lake has also been ordered to allow Kamalatissit to return.
It's been 3 months since the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls released its final report, and some are saying that governments aren't doing enough to address the 231 calls for justice. Dozens of men and women gathered on the steps of Manitoba's legislature Tuesday morning. The event was put on by Manitoba, Kiwit, Nawi, Okimakanak. People held signs displaying some of the calls and spoke about the lack of response from governments. Manitoba is in the midst of a provincial election. The group called on parties to address education and employment opportunities for women and girls and Two-Spirit individuals. At a federal level, they would like to see a national action plan implemented.
And I'm hoping that, if they're going to be releasing it, that it will be done prior to the election, so that Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirited individuals have the opportunity to see what this action plan looks like and to be part of the process, not to come in after the fact, to be sitting at those tables where decisions and planning.
And we'd like to hear what you have to say. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/APTN News. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest Indigenous news. In British Columbia, workers clearing the right-of-way for the controversial Coastal GasLink pipeline have bulldozed a section of the ancient Quees War Trail in Wet'suwet'en Nation. Last month, the pipeline company voluntarily announced that construction began in a number of places before mandatory provincial archaeological impact work was approved. Coastal GasLink apologized to the impacted communities and immediately suspended clearing activity while an internal review and post-impact assessment is conducted. And in an effort to protect the disturbed area, workers laid down trees and mats until assessments are finished. But Hereditary Chief Namox, who doesn't approve of the project to begin with, says the historic area is destroyed.
Post-impact means they've already ruined it. They can't claim ignorance. We told them time and time again what is in there, the significance of it, how important it is to all of Wet'suwet'en, because that's our history. You watch, there's going to be no penalty from BC. It seems like Indigenous rights, our culture, our spirits, where we get our names, all of our history means nothing at this point.
Criticism about poor housing conditions is coming out of the small Inuvialuit community of Uluhaktok. Mayor Laverna Klengenberg posted an open letter from the hamlet addressed to the minister responsible for the Northwest Territories Housing Corporation. The letter stated that concerns of tenants have gone unaddressed for years. Issues such as mold and drafts in homes were cited, along with the location of units being put up by Northwest Territory Housing Corporation without consultation from locals. This summer, the Housing Corp announced 45 new units for RCMP housing in the territory.
A lot of their units are very old, very cold, very drafty, and I'm sure there's mold because the windows in the wintertime a lot of the units are they're iced up. Some units, I know one of my relatives, their unit was leaking in the summer whenever it rained.
Mm-hmm.
Inuit are throwing their support behind Indigenous peoples devastated by Amazon rainforest fires.
That's coming up after the break, but first, here's tomorrow's weather forecast.
Here's a look at Wednesday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. Showers and 20 for Halifax, partly sunny and 24 in Charlottetown. Sunny skies and 15 for Nain, 16 under sunny skies for Cartwright, 21 in showers for Montreal, 19 in rain for Saguenay, 19 in sunny skies for London and Sarnia, 21 in showers in Ottawa. A sunny day and 19 for Thunder Bay, showers and 15 for Wawa and Timmins. 7 is the high for Churchill, 15 with showers in God's Lake and Norway House. Sunny and 22 in Winnipeg, 25 under the sun for Brandon. 21 and rain in Regina, 24 and partly cloudy for North Battleford. 11 with showers in Uranium City, 21 under the sun in Meadow Lake.
Welcome back. Fires continue to devastate the Amazon and threaten Indigenous people who call it their home. The rainforest plays a crucial role in regulating carbon emissions in the world's atmosphere, and the global climate crisis worsens. Now, the Inuit Circumpolar Council is expressing their solidarity with Indigenous people on the front lines. The Inuit, of course, are dealing with their own devastating effects of the climate crisis as the sea and land change in the far north. We're joined by ICC Chair Dali Sambo Doro, who I spoke to last week from Anchorage, Alaska. Ms. Doro, why is the ICC speaking out about the fires in Brazil?
Primarily because we stand in solidarity with the Indigenous peoples in Brazil who are suffering from devastating fires that oftentimes it seems unclear as to their real purpose and how they've started, and the contributions that these devastating fires are having to climate change and the impacts of climate change. There are a number of underlying issues related to them that are somewhat disturbing to us, but it's an expression of solidarity because of the impacts that we're facing in terms of climate change as well.
So in the statement, you say that countries that say they support Indigenous rights have an obligation to press Brazil to change its current path. Can you elaborate and speak specifically to Canada and the United States' roles in this?
Well, first of all, many are aware of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and in the context of Brazil, as well as states in North America, the Organization of American States adopted the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. In my view, these human rights standards are crucial to the conditions of Indigenous peoples, both in Brazil as well as throughout the Americas and indeed worldwide. I believe that Canada and the United States, as well as other countries, and that press release references the G7 countries, have an obligation to be responsive to those that are in the most inequitable conditions and status in the world, not to mention the obligations that they voluntarily engaged in the Paris Agreement and the need for response from every government. So not solely in the context of Indigenous peoples, but in the context of the global health of the planet.
There's a climate action summit coming up next month in New York and a global climate conference in December in Chile. The Inuit perhaps know better than most what climate change looks like on the ground. How will Inuit get their message across to leaders in New York and Santiago?
Well, we're standing in solidarity with Indigenous peoples, and there is an ongoing discussion about a commitment to action from Indigenous peoples themselves, and we're hoping that at the Climate Action Summit in New York at the end of September, equally that governments around the globe, including the United States and Canada, make a serious, concrete commitment to action and to follow through with the obligations that they have, not only in relation to Indigenous peoples and the UN Declaration, but also under the Paris Agreement and numerous other international agreements.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us about this today, very important matter.
You're welcome.
It's no secret that remote communities in the Northwest Territories pay top dollar for groceries. Despite limited supplies and knowledge of gardening, one Sawtoo community is harvesting more than ever. Our reporter Charlotte Mort Jacobs traveled to Fort Good Hope to find out the secret to their success.
There's a carrot. Vivian Manuel didn't grow up gardening. But after a little training and a lot of YouTube tutorials, she took on the role of creating a community garden.
Just a few of us volunteering, so we changed it where we built the boxes and then families could claim a box and grow their vegetables, and so it's worked well.
Each harvest, she learns a little more.
Not knowing that greenhouse are better for certain plants and the outdoor gardens better for others. We used to have turnips and cucumbers and that. They didn't go anywhere, so we know now that those go in the greenhouse.
In the small 500-person community of Radé-le-Camp, Fort Good Hope, along the Mackenzie River, food must be brought in by plane, winter road, or barge. Although the government does provide a Nutrition North discount on some items of food, it's limited, and prices surpass anywhere down south. From the time of harvest, it can take 3 to 4 weeks for a vegetable to hit the shelves here. When residents grow their own, they say they can taste the difference in quality, which is a good thing.
From planting that seed until eating that vegetable, and how good it tasted, like, I felt so good.
Wilfred McNeely, former chief of Fort Good Hope, says local government began looking into gardening a decade ago.
My grandfather used to have a garden down here in Travia River, about 120 miles down north on the Mackenzie River. Mm-hmm. He used to have big gardens to sell to the missionaries. So they've been growing food around here for a long time. I don't know how come it stopped, but...
He also took the gardening training in Hay River, which inspired him to build a greenhouse and raise some animals of his own. This summer, the territorial government amended its agricultural safety regulations, which waived permit fees for those wanting to sell produce they grow themselves and on their own property. While they still have a long ways to go, Manuel says she will continue to build on the garden's success.
I'd like to see every home have a home garden. Doesn't matter if it's a 4-foot by 4-foot garden or 8 by 4-foot garden boxes or just an open garden, but everyone to be growing their own food.
Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Fort Good Hope.
The need for backpacks and school supplies continues to grow in Saskatoon.
More on that after the break, and we'll catch up with some traditional medicine pickers. Stick around.
Here's a look at the rest of Wednesday's weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. Showers in 18 in Fort McMurray, sunny skies, and 20 for Grand Prairie. 27 with showers in Medicine Hat, sunny, and 27 for Lethbridge. 23 and rain in Vancouver, 29 under sunny skies for Kamloops, 24 in Campbell River. Showers and 20 in Fort Nelson, 21 in Prince George. 15 with rain for Old Crow, sun's out, and 17 for Whitehorse. 21 under the sun for Fort Liard and Trout Lake, 13 and showers for Yellowknife. 7 is the high with sunny skies in Sax Harbor, 9 and sunny in Paulatuck. 10 with the sun out in Repulse Bay, 9 in Whale Cove, 8 for Chesterfield. Plus 4 in Resolute, 6 in Igloolik. Welcome back. And just in time for the new school year, residents of a Saskatoon neighborhood were treated to free school supplies over the weekend. APTN's Priscilla Wolf has more.
Backpacks full of tools needed to begin the school year were handed out at the White Buffalo Youth Lodge. Families started lining up around the block early in the morning. The Saskatoon Travel Council and their partners organized the event for the community.
We're in our 4th year. First year we did about 700 backpacks. Year 2 and 3 was about 1,000. Last year was 1,250. This year we've did 2,500 backpacks. And why we're doing it is we really want to make an investment in the community.
The backpacks were handed out by volunteers who donate their time and money for the supplies.
I think it's grassroots. I mean, this is children going to school and getting a proper education is key to their success. We want to contribute to people that are less fortunate and can't afford the school supplies. Education's key.
Kim Brass is grateful for the free supplies. She says this initiative helps her get her children prepared for the school year.
As a parent, when you're having financial difficulties, it really helps out. It gives you most of the school supplies that they need. Sometimes you have to go and get a couple odds and ends that they don't supply in here, but you know, I'd rather spend the $20 rather than
try and come up with it all. And when you have 5 kids going to school, it gets pretty expensive.
Browse has 2 kids in high school and 3 in elementary. Her son Caden was on hand for the event and enjoyed the children's activities.
Because it's awesome and there's so many bouncy castles. And there's a fire truck. And I love fire trucks.
Over 2,500 backpacks were handed out here, giving that many kids a better start to their school year. Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
While Big Pharma is in the news settling multi-million-dollar class action lawsuits for the harms that their drugs have caused, a group of traditional medicine pickers from across Manitoba and northwestern Ontario gathered in Winnipeg to share their knowledge and medicines from back home. I caught up with some of them.
I came for this. This was sage. We don't have this up north. So that's what I was looking for, and I got lots today, and I'm happy for that.
Dion Dick traveled 400 kilometers from Grand Rapids to Winnipeg for the first annual medicine exchange. While he was thrilled with the sage, others from the south were just as happy for what he brought from his medicine chest.
This is horsetail. It's good for diabetes. This one is red baneberry root.
And you brought that?
I brought that. The elder that told me the story about this is for colon cancer. It's mainly for men, but it can be used for women as well.
Other medicines included bergamot, Seneca and lily pad roots, and yarrow. The exchange was the brainchild of Angie Cody and Carrie Sinclair.
Well, we were learning about medicines for a few years, and this year we were traveling all over Manitoba this summer picking medicines, and it was we just started sharing, and a teaching that I got from an elder from up north. He said that on this island they have this medicine wheel, and it's very sacred there. And he said, but when they would go check it out, they find medicines or they find things and items that aren't traditionally from the area, like shells and other things. And they said, because their people used to travel all over and trade medicines, have a medicine exchange. So we started talking and said, why don't we do it?
A few dozen people shared medicines and recipes to combine certain plants to treat certain ailments and prevent other ones.
And the reason why I do this is for this generation. So this is my son's daughter, and I taught my son a little bit, but she's younger, she's a baby, but she's going to learn a lot. She's going to come out with me and do all sorts of things. Yeah. And that's what we need to do with our kids nowadays, is take them out into the bush and get them thinking about natural ways of healing and not depending so much on the Western medicines, and getting back to nature.
They hope next year's exchange will be even bigger and plan to apply for grants to bring medicine keepers from even more territories to share their healing plants and knowledge. Melissa Ridgen, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
When APTN In Focus comes back this fall, we'll have a full episode on the resurgence of traditional healing and have some folks from across the country sharing what medicines are specific to their territory and how they're used to heal. You can watch for that on APTN In Focus next month.
Looking forward to it.
I know, me too.
All that In Focus will bring us this coming year.
I know. It's that time of year again, right?
It is. That's your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For much more, visit our website, aptnnews.ca.
That's where you can watch a 1-hour special dedicated to the 20th anniversary of APTN, which was just this past Sunday. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Thanks for tuning in.
And I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.